Hello, I am Dr. Anthony Hoyong An of Pepperdine University, and I am joined by Dr. Kathy Logan of University of Colorado Boulder. Every year, 5 papers are singled out for awards at the annual American Academy of Advertising Conference. This year, Kathy and I will be interviewing the authors who produced these awards-winning papers. Today, we'll be talking about the paper that received the JA Best Article Award titled Evaluating Adolescents' Response to Internet Ads, Role of Ad Skepticism, Internet Literacy, and Parental Mediation. I'm happy to welcome Dr. Jenny Lin and Dr. Russell Laczniak, the 2 authors of the paper. Jenny and Russ, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Is this paper part of a larger research stream that you guys have been working on, or does it represent a departure, a new area of research for you guys?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think I would say it's part of both. There's both aspects to it. So one of the most important co-author who cannot be with us today because she just had a newborn baby, and so Akshaya. So she was part of obviously the first author of this paper, but also part of the research team where we actually worked on another project that is related. We looked at again at the role of parents in mediating different types of internet ads. So for instance, our previously published paper, this is in Frontiers in Psychology, we looked at parental views and actions in social media influencers. And so particularly, we show that parents, without an understanding of social media influencers, that will kind of limit their ability to mediate their impact on their children's effectively. And in another project, so this is one that's ongoing, and we looking at the parents and their own use of social media, and particularly looking at mothers and the empowering role of social media for mothers. So in that paper, we find that depending on how the mothers use social media, so in an active or passive way, we're able to see that they not only have varying impact on their children, but also impacts the mothers and how they are empowered in spending and investing on their children's education.
Thank you.
This has been really part of a long ongoing research stream for me. And I was fortunate enough to have both Akshaya and Jenny as my students. And in my doctoral seminar, and beyond that, we've talked quite a bit about the role of parents in terms of socializing children to deal with various aspects of the marketplace. And so, as Jenny mentioned, we've really evolved. We began some of my early research began looking at advertising in general and evolved to look at things such as children's consumption of video games. It looked at, as Jenny mentioned, our prior work looked at children's consumption of social media. And now what we did is we began talking a little bit about advertising and recognizing how the world of advertising has really changed, especially from back when I started doing this research. And with the internet ads now not really recognizable as advertising, oftentimes parents don't even know whether or not it's advertising or not. So what are their roles? Do they still play a central role? And I, again, fortunate enough to have these inquiring minds working with me. Akshaya and Jenny said, it's not the same. We do some of those old principles that you looked at and investigated and studied 20 plus years ago. Do they still hold? And so that, for me, was the big motivation in this particular project.
As you say, this is an area, Russ, that you've been researching in for quite a while. What started your fascination with the role of the parents versus advertising? Speaking as a former practitioner.
Honestly, for me, I think one of the big things was when I was a doctoral student, I had a colleague, Les Carlson, who most people at the American Academy of Advertising know very well, who was studying this. And then both his and my major professor, Sandy Grossbart at the University of Nebraska, basically were doing research in the area. And I then, during that process, we had a small child and began noticing sort of how he reacted to advertising. And I said, I want to learn a little bit about this. Maybe it can help me be a better parent as well as feed my desire to get an academic understanding of things. So a little bit of academic interest and a lot of the, my practical world as a parent.
Yeah, for sure. I resonate with a lot of what Russ is saying. In fact, I started this project when my son was really young, he was still a baby, but I was kind of observing him, like Russ is saying, how he interacts and how he's understanding the environment around him, including the marketplace, right? So a lot of these ads and brands, how they seem to have a effect at a very young age. And so I started, with that interest too, because a part of my research does look at, internet ads and how it influences, vulnerable consumers, especially. So the children kind of fall in that umbrella nicely. And then, kind of just also interacting with other parents. I think a lot of the, talking about parenting, we all kind of share this, kind of trying to understand how to be a better parent. And a lot of times with technology, evolving so quickly and with all the digital media going on, it's hard to play catch up sometimes. So that's sort of another motivation for me to kind of, see what can we do to understand more about how to be a better parent in such a day and age. And so that was something that also triggered, this part of the research.
In your opinion, what is the most exciting or interesting findings from your study?
Yeah, I think kind of related to what we were talking about, one of the things that seemed to emerge is that there is a need for parents to keep updated with the current technologies, and there's always new platforms coming out, and sometimes they need the support and help on how to do that, right? So there's implications then for how can educators or marketers, advertisers kind of play a role in developing those type of support. And so that's kind of one thing, kind of reaffirming what our initial thoughts were. And then another thing that was also important or kind of interesting we found was not when kind of based off of Russ's prior research that yes, attitudes, values matter, skepticism towards ads when it comes to socialization, consumer socialization. But also we find that literacy, so we kind of called this internet literacy in our paper, seems to play a role not only for the children, for the parents as well. So kind of both. There needs to be some level of being versed with the technology and the language, and to better navigate. So then you can kind of combine that with your attitudes and values to help with navigating the marketplace.
Yeah, I just expand on that, Jenny, and I think the last point you made to me has been the most significant finding of this is, my prior work, as you suggested, it's attitudes, it's views of the marketplace that really drove the impact that parents could have, but they need to be literate in today's world. They need to be aware of the new technologies and how the technologies operate and how their children are interacting with them. And with all the different ways in which kids can interact, whether it be through a central home computer or through their own mobile devices, parents need to be aware of that and on top of that in order to have an impact.
Are there some implications from your research that would benefit advertising professionals?
For sure. So what we believe is, so advertising professionals should, based on what we're finding and obviously other research, they need to be cautious, right? When they're, putting together ads or whatever campaigns, when they're reaching out to children. And so we're not talking about young children only, but also adolescents, like we focus on our research, right? Even kids in their teens, right? They're not quite able to fully decipher between non-native ads, right? And then versus native ads. So it's really kind of, a responsibility as, the producers of these content, the advertisers, to really keep that in mind, first of all. And those who are especially inspired to conduct responsible, practices in advertising, I think one practice is just to be transparent, right? And I think that is a greatly appreciated practice by consumers, right? If they know that advertisers are being transparent, they're not trying to be deceptive, and so then I think it kind of is a win-win strategy, right? Consumers can be more mindful as they are processing these ads. So I think one of the other things that we find is that, as we hope, right, parents are more involved in in with their children, with, whether it's advert games or whether it's, ads or surfing online. But so one of the things I think then that important for advertisers to keep in mind is their ads, although they may be targeted towards, the younger consumers, at the same time, their parents may be, involved, hopefully they are. And so it's keeping that in mind, right? If they are appealing to the parents as well, right? Being transparent, being responsible, I think then again, that they will be more, receptive by both the parents and the children.
Yeah, I guess I would just echo the last comment that Jenny made. From my perspective, is for advertisers to keep in mind, you're targeting children, but there's certainly certain segments of parents that are actively involved in trying to mediate what's going on. As advertisers, be aware that there are parents, and you want to get parents on your side. You want to basically have parents be supportive of the claims made in those types of ads as well, if you're going to be successful at influencing children.
All right, Dr. Lin and Dr. Laczniak, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about your paper. And of course, thanks to our viewers for joining us.